Welcome, Brad. Nice to meet you.
You too, Clem. Thanks for having me.
Talking about the autumn internationals then, how do you think they went, really? Because the media has been quite scathing about the way England played, especially in the first two games.
Yeah, I think it was a fantastic way to end, obviously beating the Aussies and putting in a great performance. I think as a team we were probably a bit frustrated from the first two games, in games that we potentially should have won and could have won. In both games we had our opportunities, and I think in the New Zealand game we had a fantastic first half in the way we started, but obviously through a bit of execution in the first game they came back into it and we couldn't really respond. South Africa game was very different. I think we outplayed them in most aspects of the game, but in Test rugby, small moments have big consequences. Intercept try, you go 10-0 down against a top team, you're always going to be fighting back, but the resolve the team showed was very pleasing, and we got to level scores and gave ourselves the opportunity to win. The best thing for me in terms of the autumn was the way the squad stayed together. There obviously was some disappointment, but the way the team bounced back, a good win against Samoa and a fantastic result against Australia was a fitting way to end the tournament.
If we go back a little bit further, when England beat New Zealand at Twickenham, was there something different about that game and the way England played, or are you still trying to do the same things now?
I think, it was a fantastic day, and I think it's etched in the memories of most England players and fans, and I think it was a day where all those things that we like to do on the pitch all added up. I think it was a tale of us getting our kicking game right, us getting our defence right, us getting our attacking game going right. And when you combine all those spheres of the game and put it into one performance, that's what happens. I think if we spoke about what happened in the New Zealand game, we were slightly off in our kicking game. In the South Africa game, it was just minor errors that caused the team to be on the back step. But in that game, we started off the game with great intensity. I think we went 15-0 up at half-time through great defence and great kick chase and great pressure. And in the second half, they came back, but the way the team responded and scored 3 quick tries in succession and showed some fantastic attack just showed how in a game, if you combine all 3 attributes and they all linked up, you can put on a fantastic performance. And that's where you want to aim to get in every test. But I think there's always 2 teams playing in a game, and they're going to have their opportunities too.
And do you think it's the way the opposition plays that disrupts the ability to you fire on all cylinders at the same time?
I think it's a combination of obviously what the opposition do to you and your execution and what you're trying to do. I think in Test rugby against the top teams, your New Zealand, your South Africas, your Australias, if you're not 100% on song in every department, it's going to be a tough day. And it shows in games that you get it right, you have great results, and in games you get it ever so slightly off, it can result in a loss.
So what's the highs and lows in the dressing room then? I mean, how do you respond to those highs and lows? So, you come off a great victory against New Zealand, and it must be fantastic being in there. And then the flip side of that is getting completely outplayed by Wales. What's the dressing room like? How do you pick yourselves up again?
Yeah, that's the huge sort of mental aspect, I think, of professional sport, is that you either have an unbelievable high or a terrible low. I think in terms of how you respond at a club game, everything's intensified. Playing for England, obviously the pride and honour and passion you have for representing that jersey, that when it's a win, it can be the most euphoric experience you have, and when it's a loss, it's a very glee sort of situation where guys are obviously disappointed for not having the loss, but you don't get that rush of energy and that rush of excitement you get with the loss. So it can be very tough as a player, but I think the best players are the ones that are mentally switched on and are able to turn that into a driving force for the next week.
Next up, you're playing Wales in Cardiff. I mean, what's your views about that? And does that play a significant role in the World Cup as well?
Yeah, it's a hugely exciting prospect. I think for this England team now, I think it's been 3 very close Grand Slam sort of opportunities. I think in each of the last 3 years, we've only lost the one game and very narrowly in most. So I think in terms of the team's success, we want to go one better, and that's to win. Playing away in Cardiff is an unbelievable atmosphere. I think for every player to be out there on the pitch, it's going to be a special environment, and that's what you want to play, is to play at the highest level in front of big crowds at high stakes games. I don't think it has too much bearing on the World Cup, because obviously a lot changes again in 6 months, but in terms of having that psychological edge and a huge game to play for. It's a huge prospect and immensely exciting.
How do you run your defence then in a match?
I think a lot of what the preparation is, it comes in the training week. Ultimately, if we were in an England context, Andy Farrell's defence philosophies are obviously crucial to what the team do and how people apply themselves. I think in terms of your role as a player is obviously to be able to execute that, but then drive the team to be better in every aspect. I think if you talk about a pressured line speed sort of team, a team that wants to get off the line, want to get their players set really early in position, I think without numbers on your feet, you're never going to be able to put the pressure on the opposition that you want. And that can be a weapon for a team. I think a lot of what happens well in attack is off the back of an unbelievable defence that's caused the mistake, and you've looked to react and play off that. So I think as a player, it's a lot of what you drive on and off the field and driving standards and offering that support to players on the pitch and on the run.
Do you get involved in analysing the opposition then?
Yeah, definitely. It's a huge part in terms of what teams do as a team, their sort of phase play shape, how they look to attack. Do they like to attack the minus? Do they like to play the same way orientated? Are they a big kicking team? Do they have a little kick chase philosophy? And then again, in your smaller units within your backs role, you look to what they do in their first phase attack, how they look to strike off lineouts, how they look to strike off scrums. And that relationship between the person on your inside and your outside is so crucial. If you have too many people loading into the breakdown, you're going to be short on the keep going. And if your wings aren't aware that they're a team that like to attack again, changing direction, it's crucial in terms of having people aware and making good decisions on the run.
Are the opposition predictable then?
It never really is. I think sometimes in rugby, even though you know what's coming, if you don't front up physically and win collisions, you can't really stop it. So a lot of what teams do, if they do it really well and with great physicality and run good lines, you often have to make a decision as a player. So sometimes being predictable can still be effective if a team doesn't front up on defence.
You know, we've talked a lot about defence, but we haven't sort of talked about you leading the attacking line. You know, what's it like running into those collisions with the opposition and offloading the ball and all that? How do you deal with it? Do you relish it?
I think as a player, there's a competitive streak in all of you, and often some more than others. So for me personally, every time I step on the pitch, I see it as a huge opportunity to impose yourself and be someone that your team will look to, but I guess in the opposition's eyes, someone that they want to target. And I think as a player, every time you get that opportunity, you have to relish it, you have to enjoy the confrontations, you have to enjoy the collisions, and soak up every minute that you're out there.